Hello everybody and welcome. This is Dave from Double Edge Racing and Tekno. I am one of the team drivers for Tekno, and I'm sorry that this has taken a while to get going, but I'm going to be going through a build of the ET48.3, which is the electric 8-scale truggy from TeknoRC. This is just a quick overview to show some of the stuff that I'm going to be putting in it. I'll be covering individual portions as we go along. Unfortunately, the shipping was not so great from UPS, though thanks to Tekno's awesome packaging and quick responses with everything, there are no problems here in the package. So to quickly go through all of this, one of the things that you're commonly going to see is going to be electronics, of course. There are two ways that most people are going about this for the motor choices. One is to use a truggy size motor, such as this, which is the Tekno T8 Gen 2. I have chosen the 2000 kV model, which gives the best gearing choices available for this particular truggy in most cases. That will be going into mine. You also have the camp that typically will run a buggy size motor. Tekno does not recommend that you use their buggy motors in a truggy. They are against that. However, another company, here you can see the SMC motor. This is their new V2 version. This is the 1900 kV motor, and these have a little bit more torque than, for example, some of the T8 buggy motors from Tekno and other companies. So if you're going to go ahead and use a buggy motor, this is a great option. 1900 is the most common kV rating for buggy motors, both in use in the electric buggies as well as when they are run inside the electric truggy. To quickly cover the other aspect of that, I will be putting the Tekno in with its Tekno Gen 2 RX8, which works very well. However, I want to show you something brand new. This should be available soon. I've been testing this in some of my other vehicles, but have not put it in this. This is the new 8th scale ESC that will shortly be available from SMC. This is a nice compact all aluminum unit with a replaceable fan on it. You've got the sensor port up on top here, an integrated switch, and unlike many of the other options, this is a nice 150 amp ESC, but it does not have a much larger footprint than many of the others, so this will work quite well even with a truggy length motor. Other options that you will commonly see are going to be things like the Hobbywing SCT Pro, which is a similar size to this and to the Tekno RX8 Gen 2. However, you do want to be careful if you're running something like the Hobbywing XR8 or their older 150 amp speed control, as they are larger, which can cause problems where you have the motor and the ESC basically back to back in the setup on the Tekno vehicles. And so if you have a larger one, they can actually end up basically rubbing each other or smacking each other when there is chassis flex. So while it does fit in there, I highly recommend that you stay with a slightly smaller ESC, such as this SMC, the Hobbywing SCT Pro, or the Gen 2 RX8 from Tekno. That's a quick overview of the power plants that I'll be looking at and putting in. This is the servo that I'm going to be using, which is the ProTech 170S from A-Main Hobbies, and this is the Chad Bradley edition of it, which is their team version. One important note on this is that you will need something of a extension lead for your cable, because the servo lead on here is not quite long enough for the Teknos. Many of the servos that you're going to find on the market are going to need this, about a 3-inch or so extension cable. I have chosen this particular one because it has all kinds of torque. Let me see if the specs are on the box here for you. Yes, they are. So this is 0.7 and basically 550 ounce-inches of torque. Hopefully you can see that through some of the reflection there. And this is going to be more than enough to handle the truggy. I'm also putting the exact same thing into my e-buggy so that the responses and the way that they feel when steering are going to be the same thing. A slightly less expensive version of that I have run for quite a while in my e-buggies is the 150T from ProTech. It's a little bit less expensive. Again, all metal, all aluminum. It's 0.08 instead of 0.07, and I believe it's 450 instead of 550 ounce-inches of torque. You will see people commonly running anything from about 300 ounce-inches or more for the truggies and the e-buggies, but the more you have, the safer it is. The better you're going to be able to hold corners, the better you're going to be able to handle landing sideways or on one wheel, the better you're going to be able to keep tracking the direction you want to go if somebody runs into your wheel while racing, and the less stress you're going to put on the servo, so the longer it's going to last. Lastly, I'm going to do a quick thing here of transponders. I know that this is a fairly basic thing. Most people understand they need to put a transponder in. However, this is one of the MyLapse RC4 hybrid ones, which I will be putting in. The important thing to note is that this is a 2-wire. The older MyLapse or AMB versions that are 2-wire are perfectly fine to use. The 3-wire versions of these, especially if you are a traveling RC racer, I do not recommend. They do save you $10 or so to have the 3-wire, but the 3-wire only works on the very newest of the MyLapse transcoders. So in a lot of places that you go to, especially those that may have existing racers or may have a large population of clone transponders in use by the racers, they won't have updated their software, and so only the 2-wire and the earlier AMB stuff will work. The advantage of this 2-wire, this hybrid, is that no matter what version of the software, it's going to work. It's not going to get replaced and discontinued for support like some of the older AMB or the clone transponders, and it's also going to continue to work on all of the old versions of the decoder boxes and software. So that is a very brief version of what's going to be going into my Tekno ET48.3 as I build it, and I will be covering each step as we go along the way, showing tips and tricks for both the truggy and occasionally some of the other vehicles in the same area. This has been a quick intro to hopefully look at what the 4K is like, make sure audio is okay, and see if everybody has any particular questions on what's going in there. That's all for now. See you next time.